goes without saying that Sergio Perez has had it tough in the past couple of years as Verstappen's teammate, and that has taken its toll. The Mexican driver has opened up about having to deal with the superiority of his teammate and what kind of effect it had on his own mental health, which may have just opened up the door even wider for his competitors regarding the second seat alongside the soon-to-be three-time world champion. You may have seen the statements from Perez's father, and that's fueled up additional talk about Perez being replaced sooner rather than later. It seems like massive changes are coming to the Austrian team. The question is, how much of a victim will Perez be in this scenario, considering the fact that he is indeed one of the most inconsistent drivers in 2023? Sergio Perez has been famous for one thing in 2021, helping Verstappen massively in achieving his maiden championship, and nobody can forget the races he drove in Turkey and Abu Dhabi. His ability to preserve the tyres to their maximum enabled Red Bull to always back up Verstappen, as it was a clear one-on-one fight with Hamilton for the championship. However, in 2022 and 2023, Perez emerged as a candidate for the championship himself, winning a couple of the opening races and keeping the gap to his teammate on a single-digit note. As before the Miami GP, where Perez started on pole and Verstappen ninth due to Leclerc crashing and causing the red flag, the difference between them was just 6 points. Be that as it may, Verstappen managed to annihilate Perez's hopes of competing for the championship, and many experts believe that regarding the 2023 season, it was Miami that knocked down Perez's confidence to drive the car. And it wasn't easy, considering that he won 2 out of the first 4 events and managed to keep Verstappen behind for the majority of the race in Baku and Jeddah, something that has never happened since in the remainder of the season. Mental health issues are very common in F1, and being the second fiddle in the team can definitely take a toll on your ability to perform as well as your teammate. With how dominant Verstappen is with the RB19, you'd expect nothing less than P2 every racing weekend for Perez. But not only did he fail to do that, he's also entered a notorious streak of not reaching Q3 in 5 races in a row, making his seat one of the most vulnerable in the sport. This is something that the veteran has opened up about, as he was not shy to admit that just like Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes days, he visited a mental health therapist in order to get himself back in top-notch form. Elaborating on everything regarding the 2023 season, the suitability of the car, as well as the drop in performance and its toll on his mental health, Perez went on to say, "When the season started, the car suited me perfectly, but cars evolve during the season. After Miami, things went downhill. I had a different car that didn't suit me so well. Then I failed to get into Q3 several times, so my confidence dropped. As a result, the driving went a lot less as well. At one point, I just didn't come out of Q2. That was very tough because you drive with a top team, the pressure to perform increases quickly. But I didn't give up and kept working hard with the engineers to sort things out. My self-confidence came back when I realized that I won races under my own steam earlier this year. I dare say I am 100% again now, and I also have the conviction that I can have a shot at the world title next year." It's safe to say that Red Bull, although being the most dominant squad out there from day one of the 2023 season, weren't shy about bringing more upgrades to the car, but constantly saying that the car is not fit for you will not get you out of any trouble. I do understand that it's kind of hard to fight against such a talented individual as Verstappen, who got into Formula 1 at the age of 17 before he even got his driver's license, and is currently standing as the youngest Formula 1 winner in the history of the sport. But claiming that you have a legitimate shot at the championship and then failing to even be in the battle for P2 can definitely take the toll on your self-confidence, something that Red Bull doesn't really need right now in their own rows. Elaborating on this matter and saying how it's affected him and his family, Perez continued, "When you're having such a hard time with your work, it's difficult to be cheerful at home with your wife and children. So I hired a mental coach because my family deserves to have that cheerful father at home. Together with my coach, I worked on becoming the best version of myself at home, but also as a driver. As a result, I found positivity again. I'm now 33 years old, but I'm still learning every day. On the track, but certainly also off it. Partly because of this, I will never get tired of Formula 1. It's really amazing what this sport still gives me." The bad news for Perez here is not the struggles he had with his mental health, as I'm more than glad that Checo sorted that one out in his personal life, but it's the situation that is currently being inevitably provoked by his father's statement as well. While he was this sweet and loving guy just a couple of months ago, always supporting both Max and Checo, it seems like he got tired of playing the Good Samaritan role and decided to open up about how everything is being done in Red Bull right now, with the preference, of course, always being on Max Verstappen. Many of the fans believe that this is the way that it's been for the entire time since Verstappen became the #1 driver in Red Bull since Ricciardo's departure in 2018, which is why nobody was able to adapt the cars that they had to drive alongside the Dutchman. And that only brought negativity to his talent and his ability to actually adapt to any car that is given to him. Nonetheless, Antonio Perez feels like his son is currently being mistreated at Red Bull and that the car has never been made according to his preference, even though his son has openly admitted before the beginning of the 2023 season that Red Bull has finally given him a car with which he can compete for the championship. Elaborating on this, Antonio went on to say, "The car is tuned for Max, who likes to have a lot of grip at the front of the car. Checo prefers grip at the back. But so he has to drive a car that is tailor-made for Max. Checo is second in the standings, and that is exactly the position he was hired for at Red Bull. There is only one room for one world champion. He has huge fans all over the world and is the only driver from Latin America. Any brand in the world would be happy with him." Why would this translate to bad news for Perez? Well, even before Antonio said that the car was tailor-made for Verstappen, these claims were floating around and being occasionally thrown in the media by Toto Wolff, who felt like the reason why Verstappen has always been the dominant figure in Red Bull, has never had an intra-team competition like Hamilton did with Rosberg and is currently having one with Russell, is the fact that the car is always built around him. If Red Bull wants to prove them otherwise, they have two solutions. The first one is to change the car, if these claims are true, for the upcoming season and let the drivers race in a fair and square manner. But in this scenario, we'll never know whether Perez was given a competitive car, because in the first moment of performance drop, you'd automatically think that he was not given the same tuned car as his teammate. The second solution, while a bit more controversial, is to replace Perez with Liam Lawson, who's been nothing short of amazing in the first 4 races of his career, and prove to the world that it's just Verstappen who manages to extract that much potential out of the car and not the machinery itself. Obviously, Perez is very unlikely to continue the contract with the Austrian team beyond 2025, as there are already looming fears that he might be actually gone for the upcoming season as well. But claims like this from his father are not helping his future with the team. Whether Perez will manage to sort out his issues with the car in 2025 and whether Red Bull will actually allow both of its drivers to have an equal piece of competitive machinery in the foreseeable future, time will tell. But if these claims are to be believed, then I guess Perez might have had enough of the toxic environment that's surrounding him in Red Bull. Do you think that this is more than enough for him to pull the plug with Red Bull and focus on another project in his F1 career? Let us know in the comments below.